God slays himself with every leaf that flies, and hell is more than half of paradise.
A creature so solid must have room for a soul.
My own dear love, he is all my world, and I wish I'd never met him.
By sunset, she is tired. The wind strokes the strands of long gray hair. Succeed and give, and it helps you live.
No figure, lingering, pauses to feed the hunger of the eye.
On behalf of the Vermont Arts Council and our partners, Vermont PBS, the Vermont Principals Association, the National Endowment for the Arts, and the Poetry Foundation, welcome to the 11th Annual Vermont Poetry Out Loud State Finals from the studios of Vermont PBS. The English poet William Wordsworth called it the spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings. The American poet Marianne Moore called it imaginary gardens with real toads in them. Poetry is joy and sadness. It is sublime and mundane. The beat poet Allen Ginsberg called it the one place where people can speak the original human mind. Vermont's first poet laureate, Robert Frost, was a little grittier. He said poetry is a way of taking life by the throat. However you define it, tonight, 10 high school students from across the state will bring us the thoughts, the feelings, and the words of great poets as they compete in the finals of Vermont Poetry Out Loud. Poetry Out Loud is a national competition that encourages students in grades 9 through 12 to explore great poetry through memorization and recitation. The finalists in tonight's competition have been chosen from more than 5,000 Vermont students in 43 high schools, from Brattleboro to Burlington and Barton to Bradford, students participating in Poetry Out Loud this year. The winner of tonight's state championship will go on to represent the state of Vermont at the national finals in Washington, D.C., and will compete against 53 other contestants, one from each of the 50 states, Puerto Rico, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and the District of Columbia, for up to $20,000 in prize money. Our state champion will receive a $200 award and an all-expense-paid trip for two to the finals in Washington. The champion's school library will receive $500 for the purchase of poetry books and related materials. Tonight's second-place finalist will receive a $100 prize, and $200 will go to his or her school library. Now, there are going to be 3 rounds in tonight's competition, and all 10 contestants are prepared to recite in all 3 rounds. They'll each recite their first poem in round 1, the second in round 2. However, only the 3 top-scoring students will recite their third poem in round 3 to determine who will represent Vermont at the National Poetry Out Loud Finals. Poetry Out Loud recitations are scored in 5 categories: physical presence, voice and articulation, dramatic appropriateness, level of understanding, and overall performance. Poetry Out Loud judges evaluate each recitation independently using a uniform 6-level scoring system. In addition, an accuracy judge follows the text to monitor accuracy. While the students reciting poems by heart tonight have a very challenging task, we should also acknowledge the dauntingly difficult work of our judges who have to evaluate these recitations. I'd like to introduce them to you now. Abigail Carroll, Major Jackson, Stacy Raphael, Ellen McCulloch Lovell, and Morgan Irons. Tabulating the scores from the Vermont Arts Council, Susan McDowell and Lori Hayer. It's time to get started. With all of that out of the way, time to begin our Poetry Out Loud competition.
Personal by Tony Hoagland. "Don't take it personal," they said. But I did. I took it all quite personal. The breeze and the river and the color of the fields. The price of grapefruit and stamps. The wet hair of women in the rain. And I cursed what hurt me, and I praised what gave me joy. The most simple-minded of possible responses. The government reminded me of my father, with its deafness and its laws. And the weather reminded me of my mom, with her tropical squalls. Enjoy it while you can, they said of happiness. Think first, they said of talk. Get over it, they said at the School of Broken Hearts. But I couldn't, and I didn't. And I don't believe in the clean break. I believe in the compound fracture served with a sauce of dirty regret. I believe in saying it all and taking it all back. And saying it again for good measure while the air fills up with I'm sorries, like wheeling birds, and the trees look seasick in the wind. Oh, life, can you blame me for making a scene? You were that yellow caboose, the moon disappearing over a ridge of cloud. I was the dog, chained in some fool's backyard, barking and barking, trying to convince everything else to take it personal, too.
Echo by Christina Rossetti. Come to me, the silence of the night. Come in the speaking silence of a dream. Come with soft, rounded cheeks and eyes as bright as sunlight on a stream. Come back in tears, O memory, hope, love of finished years. O dream how sweet, too sweet, too bitter sweet, whose wakening should have been in paradise where souls brimful of love abide and meet, where thirsting, longing eyes watch the slow door, that opening, letting in, lets out no more. Yet come to me in dreams, that I may live my very life again, though cold in death. Come back to me in dreams, that I may give, pulse for pulse, breath for breath. Speak low, lean low. As long ago, my love, how long ago?
Windigo by Louise Erdrich. For Angela. The Windigo is a flesh-eating, wintry demon with a man buried deep inside of it. In some Chippewa stories, a young girl vanquishes this monster by forcing boiling lard down its throat, thereby releasing the human at the core of ice. You knew I was coming for you, little one, when the kettle jumped into the fire. Towels flapped on the hooks, and the dog crept off, groaning, to the deepest part of the woods. In the hackles of dry brush, a thin laughter started up. Mother scolded the food warm and smooth in the pot and called you to eat. But I spoke in the cold trees. New one, I have come for you, child. Hide and lie still. The sumac pushed sour red cones through the air. Copper burned in the raw wood. You saw me drag toward you. Oh, touch me, I murmured, and licked the soles of your feet. You dug your hands into my pale, melting fur. I stole you off, a huge thing in my bristling armor, steam rolled from my wintry arms. Each leaf shivered from the bushes we passed until they stood naked, spread like the cleaned spines of fish. Then your warm hands hummed over and shoveled themselves full of the ice and the snow. I would darken and spill all night running, until at last morning broke the cold earth, and I carried you home, a river shaking in the sun.
What Kind of Times Are These? By Adrienne Rich. There's a place between two stands of trees where the grass grows uphill and the old revolutionary road breaks off into shadows near a meeting house, abandoned by the persecuted, who disappeared into those shadows. I've walked there, picking mushrooms at the edge of dread, but don't be fooled. This isn't a Russian poem. This is not somewhere else, but here, our country, moving closer to its own truth and dread, its own ways of making people disappear. I won't tell you where the place is. The dark mesh of the woods meeting the unmarked strip of light, ghost-ridden crossroads, leaf mold paradise. I know already who wants to buy it, sell it, make it disappear. And I won't tell you where it is. So why do I tell you anything? Because you still listen. Because in times like these, to have you listen at all, it's necessary to talk about trees.
Very Large Moth by Craig Arnold, after DHL. Your first thought, when the light snaps on and the black wings clatter about the kitchen, is a bat. The clear part of your mind considers rabies. The other part does not consider, knows only to startle and cower away from the slap of its wings. Though it is soon clearly not a bat, but a moth, and harmless. Still you are shy of it. It clings to the hood of the stove, not black, but brown. Its orange eyes sparkle like televisions. Its leg joints are large enough to count. How could you kill it? Where would you hide the body? A creature so solid must have room for a soul. And if this is so, why not in a creature half its size? Or half its size again, and so on down to the ants? Clearly it must be saved. Caught in a shopping bag and rushed to the front door, afraid to crush it, feeling the plastic rattle, loosened into the night air, it batters the porch light, throwing fitful shadows around the landing. That was a really big moth, is all you can say to the doorman who has been watching your whole performance with a smile. The half compassion and half horror we feel for the creatures we want not to hurt and prefer not to touch.
The Albatross by Kate Bass. When I know you are coming home, I put on this necklace. Glass beads on a silken thread, a blue that used to match my eyes. I like to think I'm remembering you. I like to think you don't forget. The necklace lies heavy on my skin. It clatters when I reach down to lift my screaming child. I swing her, roll her in my arms until she forgets. The beads glitter in the flicker of a TV set as I sit her on my lap. and wish away the afternoon. I wait until I hear a gate latch lift, the turn of key and lock. I sit amongst toys and unwashed clothes. I sit and she fingers the beads until you speak in a voice that no longer seems familiar, only strange. I turn as our child tugs at the string. I hear a snap and a sound like falling rain.
Love Song by Dorothy Parker. My own dear love, he is strong and bold, and he cares not what comes after. His words ring sweet as a chime of gold, and his eyes are lit with laughter. He is jubilant as a flag unfurled. Oh, a girl, she'd not forget him. My own dear love, he is all my world, and I wish I'd never met him. My love, he's mad, and my love, he's fleet, and a wild young wood thing bore him. The ways are fair to his roaming feet, and the skies are sunlit for him. As sharply sweet to my heart he seems as the fragrance of acacia. My own dear love, he's all my dreams, and I wish he were in Asia. My love runs by like a day in June, and he makes no friends of sorrows. He'll tread his galloping rigadoon in the pathway of the morrows. He'll live his days where the sunbeams start, nor could storm or wind uproot him. My own dear love, he is all my heart, and I wish somebody'd shoot him.
Mingus at the Showplace by William Matthews. I was miserable, of course, for I was 17, and so I swung into action and wrote a poem. And it was miserable, for that was how I thought poetry worked. You digested experience and shat literature. It was 1960 at the Showplace, long since defunct, on West 4th Street, and I sat at the bar casting beer money from a thin reel of ones, the kid in the city, big ears, like a puppy. And I knew Mingus was a genius. I knew 2 other things, but they were wrong, as it happened. So I made him look at the poem. "There's a lot of that going around," he said, and sweet baby Jesus, he was right. He laughed amiably. He didn't look as if he thought bad poems were dangerous, the way some poets do. If they were baseball executives, they'd plot to destroy sandlots everywhere, so that the game could be saved from children. Of course, later that night, he fired his pianist in mid-number and flurried him from the stand. "We've suffered a diminuendo in personnel," he explained, and the band played on.
Dear Reader, by Rita Mae Reese. You have forgotten it all. You have forgotten your name, where you lived, who you loved, why. I am simply your nurse, terse and unlovely, I point to things and remind you what they are. Chair, book, daughter, soup. And when we are alone, I tell you what lies in each direction. This way is death, and this way after a longer walk is death, and that way is death. You won't see it until it is right in front of you. Once, after your niece had been to visit you, and I said something about how you must love her, or she must love you, or something useless like that, you gripped my arm in your terrible swift hand and said, "She is everything." You gave me a shake, everything to me. Then you fell back into the well, deep in the well of everything. And I stand at the edge and call, chair, book, daughter, soup.
Vixen by W.S. Merwin. Comet of stillness, princess of what is over, high note held without trembling, without voice, without sound. Aura of complete darkness, keeper of the kept secrets, of the destroyed stories, the escaped dreams, the sentences never caught in words. Warden of where the river went, touch of its surface, sibyl of the extinguished, window onto the hidden place and the other time at the foot of the wall by the road. Patient, without waiting, in the full moonlight of autumn at the hour when I was born. You no longer go out like a flame at the sight of me. You are still warmer than the moonlight gleaming on you. Even now, you are unharmed. Even now, perfect, as you have always been. Now, when your light paws are running on the breathless night on the bridge with one end, I remember you. When I have heard you, the soles of my feet have made answer. When I have seen you, I have waked and slipped from the calendars, from the creeds of difference and the contradictions that were my life and all the crumbling fabrications, as long as it lasted until something that we were had ended. When you are no longer anything, let me catch sight of you again, going over the wall. And before the garden is extinct and the woods are figures guttering on a screen, let my words find their own places in the silence after the animals.
Well, we've come to the end of round one, and there's still more to come. Haley Bouchard is a senior at South Burlington High School. She's passionate about reading Shakespeare. She's fluent in sign language, and she's up next. Here's Haley.
The Death of Allegory, Billy Collins. I am wondering what became of all those tall abstractions that used to pose, robed and statuesque in paintings and parade about on the pages of the Renaissance, displaying their capital letters like license plates. Truth, cantering on a powerful horse. Chastity, eyes downcast, fluttering with veils. Each one was marble come to life, a thought in a coat. Courtesy, bowing with one hand always extended. Villainy, sharpening an instrument behind a wall. Reason with her crown, and constancy, alert behind a helm. They are all retired now, consigned to a Florida for tropes. Justice is there, standing by an open refrigerator. Valor lies in bed, listening to the rain. Even death has nothing to do but mend his cloak and hood, and all their props are locked away in a warehouse. Hourglasses, globes, blindfolds, and shackles. Even if you called them back, there are no places left for them to go. No garden of mirth or bower of bliss. The valley of forgiveness is lined with condominiums, and chainsaws are howling in the forest of despair. Here, on the table near the window, is a vase of peonies, and next to it, black binoculars and a money clip. Exactly the kind of thing we now prefer. Objects that sit quietly on a line in lower case. Themselves and nothing more. A wheelbarrow, an empty mailbox, a razor blade resting in a glass ashtray. As for the others, the great ideas on horseback and the long-haired virtues in embroidered gowns, it looks as though they have traveled down that road you see on the final page of storybooks, the one that winds up a green hillside and disappears into an unseen valley, where everyone must be fast asleep.
A senior at Green Mountain High School, Kaylee Osier enjoys singing and acting. She's lived in 5 different states, she says, but we're happy that she's settled in this one. Kaylee?
Domestic Situation by Ernest Hilbert. Maybe you've heard about this, maybe not. A man came home and chucked his girlfriend's cat in the wood chipper. This really happened. Dinner wasn't ready on time. A lot of other little things went wrong. He spat on her father, who came out when he learned about it. He also broke her pinky, stole her checks, and got her sister pregnant. But she stood by him, stood strong through it all, because she loved him. She loved him, you see. She actually said that. And then she went and married him. She felt some unique call. Don't try to understand what another person means by love. Don't even bother.
Hannah Funk is a senior at Mount Abraham Union High School. She skis, she runs, she plays soccer. In her spare time, she prefers to spend time with friends and family who are rooting for her tonight.
Curandera by Pat Mora. They think she lives alone, on the edge of town in a 2-room house, where she moved when her husband died at 35 of a gunshot wound, in the bed of another woman. The curandera and house have aged together to the rhythm of the desert. She wakes early, lights candles before her sacred statues, brews tea of yerba buena. She moves down her porch steps, rubs cool morning sand into her hands into her arms. Like a large blackbird, she feeds on the desert, gathering herbs for her basket. Her days are slow days of grinding dried snake into powder, of crushing wild bees to mix with white wine. And the townspeople come, hoping to be touched by her ointments, her hands, her prayers, her eyes. She listens to their stories, and she listens to the desert, always to the desert. By sunset, she is tired. The wind strokes the strands of long gray hair. The smell of drying plants drifts into her blood. The sun seeps into her bones. She dozes on her back porch, rocking, rocking.
Lee Gallagher is a sophomore at Mount Anthony Union High School. Lee enjoys painting, singing, acting, reading, and reciting poetry.
Life in a Love by Robert Browning. Escape me, never. Beloved, while I am I and you are you, so long as the world contains us both, me the loving and you the loath. While the one eludes, must the other pursue. My life is at a fault at last, I fear. It seems too much like a fate indeed, though I try my best I shall scarce succeed. But what if I fail of my purpose here? It is but to keep the nerves at strain, to dry one's eyes and laugh at a fall, and, baffled, get up and begin again. So the chase takes up one's life, that's all. While look but once from your farthest bound at me, so deep in the dust and dark, no sooner the old hope goes to ground than a new one, straight to the self-same mark. I shape me, ever removed.
Stepping on this side of the lens is Tate Clarke of the Sharon Academy. Tate loves digital and film photography.
Requests for Toy Piano by Tony Hoagland. Play the one about the family of the ducks, where the ducks go down to the river, and one of them thinks the water will be cold, but then they jump in anyway and like it and splash around. No, I must play the one about the nervous man from Palestine in row 14, with a brown bag in his lap, in which a gun is hidden in a sandwich. Play the one about the handsome man and woman standing on the steps of her apartment, and how the darkness and her perfume and the beating of their hearts conjoin to make them feel like leaping from the edge of chance. No, I should play the one about the hard rectangle of the credit card hidden in the man's back pocket, and how the woman spent an hour plucking out her brows, and how her perfume was made from the destruction of 100 flowers. Then play the one about the flower industry, in which the migrant workers curse their own infected hands from tossing sheaves of roses and carnations into the back of the refrigerated trucks. No, I must play the one about the single yellow daffodil standing on my kitchen table, whose cut stem draws the water upwards so the plant is flushed with the conviction that the water has been sent to find and raise it up from somewhere so deep inside the earth, not even flowers can remember.
Ekaterina Langlois is a senior at Bellows Free Academy in Fairfax. She's also a cheerleader, and I'm almost afraid to read the next bio note. It says she can do a stellar backflip.
Domestic Situation by Ernest Hilbert. Maybe you've heard about this. Maybe not. A man came home and chucked his girlfriend's cat in the wood chipper. This really happened. Dinner wasn't ready on time. A lot of other little things went wrong. He spat on her father, who came out when he learned about it. He also broke her pinky, stole her checks, and got her sister pregnant. But she stood by him, stood strong through it all, because she loved him. She loved him. You see, she actually said that. And then she went and married him. She felt some unique call. Don't try to understand what another person means by love. Don't even bother.
Maggie Fitzgerald is a senior at Rice Memorial High School, where she is a singer, an actress, an artist, an occasional traveler, and next.
The Nail by C.K. Williams. Some dictator or other had gone into exile, and now reports were coming about his regime. The usual crimes, torture, false imprisonment, cruelty, and corruption. But then, a detail. That the way his henchmen had disposed of his enemies was by hammering nails into their skulls. Horror, then. What mind does after horror, after that first feeling that you'll never catch your breath, mind imagines how not to be annihilated by it. The preliminary tap, feels it in the tendons of the hand, feels the way you do with your nail when you're fixing something, making something, shelves, a bed. The first light tap to set the slant, and then the slightly harder tap to embed the tip a little more. No more. This should be happening in myth, in stone or paint, not in reality, not here. It should be an emblem of itself, not itself, something that would mean, not really have to happen. Something to go out, expand an implication from that unmoved mass of matter in the breast. As in the image of an anguished face, in grief for us, not us as us in a myth, a moral tale, a way to tell the truth that grief is limitless. A way to tell us we must always understand it's we who do such things. We who set the slant, embed the tip, lift the sledge, and drive the nail. Drive the nail that is the axis upon which turns the brutal human world upon the world.
Eliza Goodell is a sophomore at Oxbow High School. Eliza plays music, she dances, and she sails in her spare time.
Luke Havergal by Edwin Arlington Robinson. Go to the western gate, Luke Havergal. There where the vines cling crimson on the wall. And in the twilight, wait for what will come. The leaves will whisper there of her, and some, like flying words, will strike you as they fall. But go, and if you listen, she will call. Go to the western gate, Luke Havergal, Luke Havergal. No, there is not a dawn in eastern skies to rift the fiery night that's in your eyes. But there, where western glooms are gathering, the dark will end the dark, if anything. God slays himself with every leaf that flies, and hell is more than half of paradise. No, there is not a dawn in eastern skies, in eastern skies. Out of a grave I come to tell you this. Out of a grave I come to quench the kiss that flames upon your forehead with a glow that blinds you to the way that you must go. Yes, there is yet one way to where she is. Bitter, but one that faith may never miss. Out of a grave I come to tell you this, to tell you this. There is the western gate, Luke Havergal. There are the crimson leaves upon the wall. Go, for the winds are tearing them away, nor think to riddle the dead words they say, nor any more to feel them as they fall. But go, and if you trust her, she will call. There is the western gate, Luke Havergal, Luke Havergal.
Isabel Kotlowitz is a senior at Thetford Academy. She downhill skis, canoes, acts, sings, loves to read fantasy novels, all of the above. Isabel.
Solitude by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. Laugh, and the world laughs with you. Weep, and you weep alone, for the sad old earth must borrow its mirth, but has trouble enough of its own. Sing, and the hills will answer. Sigh, it is lost on the air. The echoes bound to a joyful sound, but shrink from voicing care. Rejoice, and men will seek you. Grieve, and they turn and go. They want full measure of all your pleasure, but they do not need your woe. Be glad, and your friends are many. Be sad, and you lose them all. There are none to decline your nectared wine. But alone, you must drink life's gall. Feast, and your halls are crowded. Fast, and the world goes by. Succeed, and give, and it helps you live. But no man can help you die. There is room in the halls of pleasure for a large and lordly train. But one by one, we must all file on through the narrow aisles of pain.
Anna Van Dyne is a senior at Harwood Union High School. As a teacher, I have to love this. Anna says she loves to learn, to ask questions, to visit new places, some of them in poetry.
Monet Refuses the Operation by Liesl Mueller. Doctor, you say there are no halos around the streetlights in Paris, and what I see is an aberration caused by old age, an affliction. I tell you, it has taken me all my life to arrive at the image of gas lamps as angels, to soften and blur and finally banish the edges you regret I don't see, to learn that the line I called the horizon does not exist, and sky and water, so long apart, are the same state of being. 54 years before I could see, Rouen Cathedral is built on parallel shafts of sun. And now you want to restore my youthful errors, fixed notions of top and bottom, the illusion of three-dimensional space, wisteria, separate from the bridge it covers. What can I say to convince you the Houses of Parliament dissolve night after night to become the fluid dream of the Thames? I will not return to a universe of objects that don't know each other, as if islands were not the lost children of one great continent. The world is flux, and light becomes what it touches, becomes water, lilies on water, above and below water, becomes lilac and mauve and yellow and white and cerulean lamps, small fists passing sunlight so quickly to one another that it would take long streaming hair inside my brush to catch it, to paint the speed of light. Our weighted shapes, these verticals, burn to mix with air and change our bone, skin, clothes to gases. Doctor, if only you could see how heaven pulls earth into its arms, and how infinitely the heart expands to claim this world, blue vapor without end.
Our three finalists are Maggie Fitzgerald from Rice Memorial High School, Ekaterina Langlois from Bellows Free Academy, and Anna Van Dyne of Harwood Union High School.
The Tables Turned by William Wordsworth. Up, up, my friend, and quit your books, or surely you'll grow double. Up, up, my friend, and clear your looks. Why all this toil and trouble? The sun above the mountain's head, a freshening luster mellow, through all the long green fields has spread his first sweet evening yellow. Books, 'Tis a dull and endless strife. Come, hear the woodland linnet. How sweet his music. On my life there's more of wisdom in it. And hark, how blithe the throstle sings. He too is no mean preacher. Come forth into the light of things. Let nature be your teacher. She has a world of ready wealth, our minds and hearts to bless. Spontaneous wisdom breathed by health, truth breathed by cheerfulness. One impulse from a vernal wood may teach you more of man, of moral evil, and of good than all the sages can. Sweet is the lore which nature brings. Our meddling intellect misshapes the beauteous forms of things. We murder to dissect. Enough of science and of art. Close up those barren leaves. Come forth and bring with you a heart that watches and receives.
The Chimney Sweeper. A Little Black Thing Among the Snow by William Blake. A little black thing among the snow, crying, weep, weep, in notes of woe. Where are thy father and mother? Say. They are both gone up to the church to pray. Because I was happy upon the heath and smiled among the winter snow. They clothed me in the clothes of death and taught me to sing the notes of woe. And because I am happy and dance and sing, they think they have done me no injury and are gone to praise God and his priest and king, who make up a heaven of our misery.
In a London Drawing Room by George Eliot. The sky is cloudy, yellowed by the smoke. For view there are the houses opposite, cutting the sky with one long line of wall like solid fog, far as the eye can stretch. Monotony of surface and of form without a break to hang a guess upon. No bird can make a shadow as it flies, for all is shadow, as in ways o'erhung by thickest canvas, where the golden rays are clothed in hemp. No figure lingering pauses to feed the hunger of the eye or rest a little on the lap of life. All hurry on and look upon the ground or glance unmarking at the passers-by. The wheels are hurrying too, cabs, carriages, all closed in multiplied identity. The world seems one huge prison house and court where men are punished at the slightest cost with lowest rate of color, warmth, and joy.
And now, the 2016 Vermont Poetry Out Loud State Champion, recipient of a $200 award, an all-expense-paid trip for two to Washington, D.C., a $500 stipend for the school library, our champion, Maggie Fitzgerald.
Congratulations.
Well, congratulations, and thanks to everyone who contributed to the success of this year's Poetry Out Loud competition. The teachers, the students, the coaches, the parents, volunteers, judges, organizations that partnered with us, the Vermont Arts Council, to bring this program to the students and to the state. The Poetry Foundation, the National Endowment for the Arts, Vermont PBS. Our registration for the 2017 Poetry Out Loud recitation contest opens August 1st. And any and all schools that teach students in grades 9 through 12 are encouraged to visit the Vermont Arts Council website. That's www.vermontartscouncil.org for more information. As we conclude this evening's program, let's recall the words of John F. Kennedy. When power leads man toward arrogance, poetry reminds him of his limitations. When power narrows the area of man's concern, poetry reminds him of the richness and diversity of existence. When power corrupts, poetry cleanses. Once again, congratulations to all of tonight's contestants. Thank you and good night.